There is something about the fall season that is just magical. It's especially special if you like donuts. I'm not talking crullers or sprinkled, not glazed or chocolate raised. I'm talking apple cider donuts, which pair perfectly, of course, with their namesake, a mug of hot apple cider. But the history of cider began with a slush of perfect autumn apples ground into mush. Something about the bite of a fresh, crisp, red, delicious apple brings me right back to my childhood. It made me wonder, how did we get so many types of apples, and how did we learn to make them into juice?
As long as there's been fruit, folks have tried to get the juice out because it's a way to preserve the fruit.
It turns out apples historically have had 3 uses. You can eat them fresh or preserved. My mother used to pack them in school lunches. You can use them to cook for things like, well, apple pie. Or you can press them into juice or cider. I traveled to Henry Ford's childhood home, complete with an apple orchard in Greenfield Village. That's where curator Debra Reid gave me a lesson in apples and juice pressing. Starting with the OG apple. What are heritage apples?
A heritage apple is a type that might have been identified on a farm and have been particularly good for cooking or eating or cider making, and then humans propagated that apple. So the older of those apples are what we often call heritage apples.
The orchard at the Henry Ford home has 3 of these heritage apples: the Snow, the Rhode Island Greening, and the Wagner apple. If I'm tasting a really delicious apple and I want to make more of those apples, it's not as simple as me just spitting the seed out into the ground, right?
That's correct. You can get an apple from seed, but that apple will not be the same as the parent, the one that you really like. So in order to replicate apples, you have to take a bud or a twig, and then you quite literally slit the bark of a parent, another tree, and from that then will grow this clone of that apple that you love.
All that cloning has led to about 16,000 varieties of apples on the official register today. And this is
It's a cider press, often called a fruit press because you use it to process all fruits, but we're using it today to process cider.
This type of press originates in the late 19th century. And we asked our friend, Farmer Steve, to show us how to run it. All right, so he's putting the apples in.
And there's gears that turn blades that pulverize the apple. So the apple falls through the machine into the bin under that. So when that gets to a certain point, we'll pull it out and put it underneath the press. And then you'll turn the press, and that'll squeeze the juice out.
To make cider, that juice could also be barreled up and fermented after the pressing process, but not before squeezing out every last drop.
Would you like to try some?
Would love some.
We have some ready.
Here's to you, Steve. Thank you very much.
A fine cider presser, eh?